Hello friends, my name is Shivam from DevOps Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials on any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact@devopschool.com.
Okay, so we are going to talk about Ansible. So I'm going to cover many things about Ansible today. And before I get into Ansible, I want to know if you have, as part of this entire DevOps trainings, have you gone through any training for any other configuration management or infrastructure as a code tool like Puppet or Chef or Inspect or something like that? No, right? Okay, so Ansible is the first tool like that. All right, good. So we will talk about what is configuration management, right? And when talking about this, we will also talk about what is infrastructure as code. Then we will talk about Ansible and we'll understand Ansible's architecture, right? And then we go into much detail about Ansible, like how it works, how's the communication, authentication, and things like that. Then we will install Ansible, right? We will set up a one master and two nodes setup. All right, I'll use my AWS account to do that. Then we are going to um, install and set up, I would say, because it requires a little bit of configuration. So we will do that. Then we will talk about ad hoc commands, or before that, we'll talk about modules, right? Then we will talk about ad hoc commands. Then we talk about inventory. I think before ad hoc comes the inventory. Before even modules comes the inventory. We'll talk about inventory. Then ad hoc commands. No modules and ad hoc, right? Then we talk about playbooks. And this is where we'll spend most of our time in talking about playbooks. And then we will see what are the various modules we can use here, right? Then we will see what is the structure of playbooks, right? How do we execute it? And then we will see how we use variables in playbook, then templates, and then handlers, right? And finally, we will end the session by talking about roles and Ansible Galaxy. So at the end of the discussion, after 4 hours, before we hit the next day in India, you should understand what is Ansible and why do we use it, and understand pretty confidently how we can use it. All right. So this is the agenda for today. Now we have 4 hours. That's a very long session. So we have 4 hours. And in the 4 hours, we'll take 2 minutes break. Oh, sorry, we'll take 2 breaks. Okay. And generally, keep things relaxed because it's a very, very heavy technical discussion. I prefer having 2 breaks of 20 minutes and 20 minutes. Now you can let me know if this is, do you think it's too much or do you think it's too less, you want more, or you want to combine them and take a bigger break? You can let me know how you prefer. But this is how I would like to do it, so that breaks are spread across, and also you get sufficient time to catch up on your other tasks during the break, right? So 20 minutes to break. After 1 hour, 30 minutes into the session, and maybe after this break, I think, after 1 hour after the break, we take. All right, so let me know if you have any concerns, and we can change it. Otherwise, we'll go ahead with that. Okay, so let's start with understanding of configuration management. Now, before we do that, I just want a quick confirmation if my screen is clear and visible to you.
Yes, it is, Amit.
It's clearly visible, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this black background and light color is okay, because sometimes I get a suggestion that, move to white background or something like that. So if this works for you, it's good. Okay. So let me choose a different color, and we start now discussing about Ansible. So first thing that we would like to know is why do we want to use Ansible? What is the use case? Why is this tool needed? So we have already discussed, or you would have already discussed, about the entire DevOps pipeline and DevOps infrastructure that you have to build in place to achieve the DevOps way of working in your organization, right? So you have your Git repository, and then you have your CI pipeline, which is generally performed in Jenkins. So you have CI in Jenkins.
Hey viewers, are you looking for formal training on SRE practices? Take our SRE program. This course will teach you how to successfully implement site reliability engineering in the modern day 24/7 services. Kickstart your SRE training today. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
Right, and then in CI you run many components, right? So you run your compilation using Maven and Gradle. I think I discussed about Maven and Gradle with you. Then you talk about static code analysis, right? Then you talk about testing using Selenium and all that. And finally, once you are ascertained of your quality of the project, then you go on to deployment, right? So you do continuous deployment, and this is where you use maybe Docker and Kubernetes and things like that. Now, to achieve all that, you need an infrastructure. Somewhere you want to run all these services. Maybe you are hosting your on-premise Git repositories. You are hosting your on-premise Jenkins, right? You are hosting your Docker and Kubernetes somewhere, right? So on some physical servers or some virtual machines, all these tools are installed, right? Then you have Jenkins, a machine where Jenkins master is installed, and then you have worker nodes where Maven is installed or Gradle is installed. You need to ensure that SonarQube is available or Java is available to run all these tasks, right? So you need an infrastructure, and you need an infrastructure which is configured with correct tools to allow you to achieve this pipeline, right? How do you achieve that? How do you manage that underlying infrastructure configuration, right? Then the next would be, for example, when you deploy, if you don't deploy on Kubernetes, right? You deploy on, let's say, physical infrastructure or physical machines or virtual machines. That means traditional operating system based deployment. Then how do you manage your staging environment? How do you manage your dev environment? How do you manage your prod environment? Right? What should be the configurations, tools installed, access, permissions, users? All that configuration of your infrastructure is of concern, right? And you may end up managing that, or you may have your IT team or operations team which will manage that, but it could be you as well, right? So how do you enable your team to manage this infrastructure? That's the problem statement. There is a lot of infrastructure and somebody has to configure it and maintain the configuration, right? So, there could be one, for example, let's say there could be one Jenkins server in your infrastructure, one Git repository, and maybe 5 Jenkins build nodes. By the way, have you worked with Jenkins already? Are you aware of Jenkins? What is Jenkins?
Little
I
bit,
don't, I mean, formally
but
as part of this course,
no, 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 not.
not right? Okay, then okay, maybe this is something which is going over your head. But I think Git and all, right? Git, and testing tools, and compilers, and build systems, Okay, so there is a lot of infrastructure, right? So there is a deployment machine where maybe you have an Ubuntu server running and you have your tools, all the tools and infrastructure configuration running, which enables you to do deployments on your target machines. Okay, so how do you manage the configuration of the servers, right? All these servers, there are many servers involved in your infrastructure. How do you manage the configurations of those servers? How do you, let's say there are 100 servers, and on 100 servers you have to install a security package. For example, you have to update your firewall on 100 of servers, all of them with the same configuration. How will you do that, right? You can either do manually, you log into each machine and then manually perform the firewall update, or you write a shell script to perform the firewall update. But if it is you have to manually maintain that shell script, you have to add some more use cases. If apart from firewall update you also have to, let's say, create 10 users on all the machines, then you have to update your shell script on using uh, using whatever programming language you are using to also enable that via your shell script, right? So there are various ways you can manage the configuration for your infrastructure, right? So let's say, for example, let's say you have uh, 4 machines here. Let's say you have 4 machines, and you are the DevOps guy or the unfortunate guy who has to manage all these servers. Let's say this is a Ubuntu server. This is a CentOS server. This is a Mac, and this is a Windows machine, right? Let's say this is your infrastructure. There is 1 machine each of Ubuntu, CentOS, Mac, and Windows. Now, these are part of your production infrastructure. And it is your responsibility to ensure that the configuration of these servers is as required. Let's say the requirement is like this. You should have user foo and user bar. Users foo and bar to be installed on all the machines, right? Installed on all machines, user foo and bar. Then you need to have HTTPD application installed on Ubuntu and CentOS machines, right? Then you have a file called httpd.conf installed on Ubuntu and CentOS machines at a particular location.
Hey viewers, trying to get into DevSecOps? Enroll for our DevSecOps certified professional programs and earn the certification that shows you are fit for these technical roles and requirements. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
Right? Then there is also one configuration which is required, which is let's say an NTP application installed on all the machines. Right? So now these are the configurations that are required by you or required by the organization to enable your CI/CD to be implemented. Now these are hypothetical and fictitious configurations. The configurations can be anything. Whatever you can perform on your servers can be a configuration. Now you as a user, how will you manage these configurations on these machines, right? So these are the configurations. How will you manage to configure these machines according to these requirements? What will you do? What will be your approach? It's a question now to all of you. I'm expecting some answers here. I'll start with one probable answer. The one probable approach would be that you as an administrator would log into each machine. So you log into Ubuntu and you see, all right, I have to create foo user, I have to create bar user, I have to install HTTPD package, I have to create httpd.conf files and NTP on this machine. Then you log into your Windows machine and you just create foo user, bar user and install NTP. These two are not required for Windows, right? So you can manually manage these configurations. What else could you do? Any other approach that you can think of managing these servers configurations? Anyone would like to answer what you could do here? Okay, so I'm not getting any responses. So then I will answer that, maybe some more possible approaches. But do you understand the use case here? What I'm trying to ask here? Forget about the solution. How do you approach this? But the problem statement, is that clear? The problem statement?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay. So you can manually manage these servers configurations, but it's not scalable for obvious reasons. Nothing manually done is scalable. The next thing is you can write a script, right? You can write for example, script in a file and maybe a shell script or a Python script where you specify that, okay, if machine is CentOS, do this. If machine is Ubuntu, do this. If machine is Windows, do this. And then log into each machine and then execute the script. So copy over the script to all the machines and then execute the script on all the machines here, right? And that would essentially configure your infrastructure as required, right? But then let's say tomorrow your team decides that we need to also have another user called Alice to be created on CentOS machines, right? Another requirement changed that you need to have Alice user to be created on CentOS machine. Now again, you have to enhance your script to take care of Alice user and also enhance the logic that it is applied to Ubuntu machine or CentOS machine only and then execute it there, right? So this approach is good to start with, but then this script becomes, a pain in the butt, right? You have to maintain this script. Maintain this script. You need to always test it so that you are sure that it is doing what it is supposed to do and not making unnecessary, unwanted changes, right? So you have to test it, you have to maintain it, and then you always have to kind of keep it up to date with the requirements. So it becomes a high maintenance task, and then if the infrastructure is pretty complex, then you may end up setting up a whole team just to manage this shell script. So this is also not a scalable solution. What next? What can we do? Right? The next solution, which is the solution actually, just give me one sec. I'm going to delete everything here. So the next solution would be to use a configuration management solution, right? Now, a configuration management solution works like this. You have a central server, right? You have a central server. When you use various tools, so for example, when you use Puppet, the server will be called something else. When you use Ansible, it's called something else. When you use Chef, it's called something else. But always there is a central server, and this server actually knows the configuration management tool, whatever you use Ansible or you use Chef or whatever, that tool knows how to manage the various operating systems. So this tool has built-in understanding of how to create users, how to install packages, how to run services, how to create files on all kind of operating systems. Okay, so what you do is you create a central server with your desired CM tool and you enable it to configure these servers. Right now you have a tool and this tool has capability to configure this server, and then you feed it your own configuration files. Now in various tools it's called many things. It's called manifest, it's called recipes, it's called playbooks. It can be anything, right? Now this configuration file contains the declarative or declaration of this state that you want, right? You define the state of your servers. You can say on Ubuntu machine.
Hey viewers, our Mastery in DevOps engineering program can help you to hone the skills necessary to succeed in high-level DevOps positions. So, what are you waiting for? Enroll now and earn certification that show you are keeping pace with today's technical roles and requirements. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
Create foo user, create bar user. On CentOS machine, create foo, create bar, create Alice. Now this is what you define, that I want this user to be present on Ubuntu, this user to be present on CentOS, this package to be installed on Ubuntu, this package to be installed on all my machines, right? You can specify like this. And then you feed this configuration file to your server. This CM tool server will read this file and will understand that the servers that you are managing need to be brought at this desired state. That means Ubuntu should have some users installed, some packages installed, some services running, some files created. CentOS should also have some configuration. So all these servers should have some configurations configured on them. And this tool will read this state file and configure your systems accordingly. Now, in this configuration file, you don't need to specify how to do things. You don't have to specify how should a user be created on Ubuntu, how should a user be created on Windows, how should a user be created on Mac, how to install a package on CentOS. You don't have to give that knowledge here or that steps here. You don't have to give instructions here, right? You have to just give the state that you want this. You don't have to specify how to do this, but you want this to be done. And this CM tool will take care of doing this. Okay, so such tools are called configuration management tools. Many examples: Ansible, Puppet, Chef, what else? SaltStack, Inspec, right? CF Engine, something like that. All these tools take care of managing the configurations of the server. And this methodology of having the configurations in a single file, or multiple files, as a piece of code. So your server configurations are present as a piece of code, right? This way of managing your infrastructure is known as infra as code. Infrastructure as code. Right? So that's what we are going to learn. How do you do this using Ansible? is this clear? Do you understand what is infrastructure as code, and do you understand what is configuration management? Any questions on the concept here? If you understand, just say yes, that you understood, and that's enough for me. If not, please let me know. All right, so looks like it's clear to you guys. Okay, so we will understand how our Ansible work as configuration management, and we will also see how do we write this code to manage our infrastructure. All right, so now let's talk about Ansible, how Ansible works specifically. I just try to use different colors for different topics just to keep it a bit more vibrant. So Ansible is a solution, used to be a solution by Ansible as a company, but then Red Hat bought it, and now it is known as Red Hat Ansible. And we are going to see, how do we work with Ansible here. So this is the basic premise of Ansible. You have a master node or Ansible master machine, right? I'll call it as Ansible master, or better, Ansible server, right? And the server can then manage the configuration of many machines. So let's call it as machine 1, and then machine 2, and machine 3. Let's keep it simple, right? So it can manage these machines. Okay, now to manage these machines, the server has to communicate to M1 or M2 or M3, right? How will this communication happen? This communication happens over SSH, right? SSH. This communication happens over secure shell. All right. And if it is a Windows machine, then SSH does not work. It may work also, but most of the times for Windows machine, you use another protocol called WinRM for Windows. But we are not going to talk about that. That is out of the scope for discussion. Okay, so we will manage only Linux machine here, and all of them can be reached out via SSH. And we will see how we can use SSH with password and SSH without password also. SSH is an authenticated communication, so you need to have a way to authenticate to the target server. So the server, Ansible server, should know how to authenticate to M1 and M2 and M3, or any node that it wants to maintain. Now, the machines that Ansible server maintains is called a host. So instead of calling it as machine 1, we should actually call them host 1, host 2, host 3. So Ansible manages hosts. Now hosts are nothing but machines which can be managed from this server. Okay, there could be machines which are not managed by particular Ansible infrastructure, then you cannot call them a host. All right. Okay, so to configure this Ansible server, we need to install Ansible on it. And Ansible is written in Python, so it requires Python to be available on it. And Ansible can work on all these hosts by actually running some Python modules here. So Python should be installed here as well. Now Ansible sometimes installs Python automatically also, but yeah, this is a requirement. Python is required. Okay. And let's then install Ansible on our server and let's create this infrastructure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an Ansible server and I'm going to create 3 machines and we will work with them. Okay, so I will now go to my EC2 instances and let's create 4 instances here. First, let's create an Ubuntu instance for our client. So I'm going to create 2 Ubuntu machines. And I will also create 1 CentOS. So I'll not create 4 machines, we'll just live with 3. If required, we'll create 1 more, but I don't think it will be required.
Thanks for watching. Want to study further? Join our training programs today.